I'm here to welcome you to our workshop, Organizing for Freedom Across Prison Walls. Before I do that, I did want to do a quick shout out to our comrades in Chicago. Love and Protect. Mothers United Against Violence. I meant to mention them earlier in the welcome. They have been a core part of Survived and Punished, and you don't forget Chicago. So I just want to make sure that we mark their wonderful work. Okay, so welcome to the California Coalition for Women Prisoners workshop, where we will learn how to organize across prison walls. I'm very honored to introduce the following workshop trainers. Taylor Lytle is an organizer with the California Coalition for Women Prisoners and a national peer-to-peer fellow. Taylor is a former foster care youth and formerly incarcerated. She was caged as a youth and later in California State Prison, CCWP. Upon her release 4 years ago, Taylor dedicated herself to ending the prison industrial complex. She's a talented poet and uses her craft to advocate for women behind bars. Welcome, Taylor.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to introduce Romarilyn Ralston. She is a Black feminist activist and scholar. For 3 decades, she has organized for gender and racial justice and against the violence of imprisonment, first while incarcerated and more recently as an advocate on the outside. Romarilyn is currently the program coordinator of Project Rebound at the California State University Fullerton, which provides formerly incarcerated students with tools and opportunities to help them thrive as scholars. She's an organizer with the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, a recent graduate of the Women's Foundation of California's Women's Policy Institute, and a graduate of Just Leadership USA's Leading with the Conviction program, and 2014-15 Coro Fellow in Public Affairs alumni. Romarilyn holds a BA with honors in Gender and Feminist Studies from Pitzer College and an MA in Liberal Arts from Washington University. Welcome, Lenz.
Hey.
The fabulous Rojas is a gender nonconforming, formerly imprisoned survivor of violence. They organized against gender discrimination while serving a 15-year sentence at CCWP in California. They now work with the Young Women's Freedom Center and the California Coalition for Women Prisoners to organize system-impacted people to join social justice movements in LA. They are one of the lead organizers of Me Too Behind Bars, a campaign to end gender and sexual violence inside all women's prisons in California. Welcome, Rojas. The wonderful Annie Paradise is a member of the California Coalition for Women Prisoners and participates in Firestorm, a project that links struggles against a global carceral regime. She is also a part of the Center for Convivial Research and Autonomy Research Collective, where she participates in Universidad de la Tierra Califa and the network of interconnected autonomous learning projects animated by indigenous and Zapatista struggles. She has worked on a number of people's investigations into incidents of state violence. Her book on social reproduction and counterinsurgency warfare in the Bay Area is forthcoming with Northwestern University Press. Welcome, Annie. And the great Colby, Lenz is a community organizer and legal advocate with the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, the Transgender Advocacy Group, and a co-founder of Survived and Punished. To do this work, Colby has been visiting people in California's women's prison for the past 15 years, organizing across prison walls to build people's capacity for survival and to achieve release and freedom. Welcome, Colby.
Yes.
So with no further ado, I open this to the workshop.
All right. Thank you so much, Elisa, for those fabulous introductions. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to be here in New York City at the Survived and Punished convening S&P, the work that you do for survivors inside prisons across this country. Your campaigns have not only freed people, but it's inspired a movement. So thank you so much for all of your work, and for all the other organizers in the room, all the other organizations that are represented, that are doing movement work, that are freeing folks from captivity. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. My name is Romarilyn. I spent 23 years in prison at the California Institution for Women. I was incarcerated in 1988. I was released in 2011. My 8th anniversary is coming up in May, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm so honored to be on this distinguished panel today with, of course, the great Colby, Lenz, and Taylor and Rojas and Ani. So with that, I'll just give you a little bit of history. So CCWP started inside the women's prison in Chowchilla, CCWF, from organizers that were transferred to CCWF from CIW, because CIW was the only women's prison in the 80s. It was built in 1952, and so those organizers had experienced a lot of trauma, poor medical care, violence while they were at the California Institution for Women, and so that, of course, violence continued when they opened up a new women's facility. And so we'll be talking more about how CCWP came to exist, and about the organizer, Sharice Shoemate, who is our champion and founder of California Coalition for Women Prisoners. But it started inside by survivors, by those who were neglected, forgotten, and suffering from some horrendous medical care inside, and still are. But because of volunteers on the outside connecting with survivors inside, we've been able to do a lot of work over the last 20 years. And so shout out to all my CCWP folks in California. Thank you for all of the work that you do, and we'll be, continuing on in our movement and in the struggle, because it is real, right? Right.
Thank you, Romarilyn. So the only other question we had for you to start off was, how did you get connected to CCWP? Or do you want to say it when you get back to Sharice? Yeah, okay. Romarilyn got in so late because of delayed flights, so let's give her an extra round of applause. So right now, each of us will say just quickly how we got connected to CCWP as a part to illustrate kind of how the organizing and relationship building works. And then we'll get into a little more background about CCWP, and then we'll do a workshop style piece with you all about how to do or keep doing this kind of work in your region, and then give you an opportunity to connect with people in your region if you're not already connected towards the end, to make sure that we can use this opportunity of having people come from all over to strengthen and deepen the work. And so I'm Colby. I got involved with CCWP in 2003 after I actually connected with some old, past CCWP volunteers in New York when I lived here. Before that, and they were starting a letter writing program with people in a basically a prison in Manhattan, where they were supposed to be releasing people from Bedford, but they were not. And so that was I didn't know that they were former CCWP volunteers, but I learned that, and by the time I moved to California, I got involved. So I've been involved a lot through prison visiting, and the longer that I spent time meeting directly, building relationship and organizing with people who are incarcerated, the deeper I got into the work, and the more it took over my entire life. And then we at CCWP, we used to have these other organizations that held up the specific work around trying to free incarcerated survivors in California, and that was the amazing Free Battered Women and the California Habeas Project, and both of those organizations folded. Free Battered Women folded into CCWP, but we have now 1.5 staff people and then a lot of volunteers, and so we could not take on the work of also specifically, we work with survivors. Everybody in prison is a survivor of many things, right? And we work to free survivors, but it can't be the main part of our work, because we also do a lot of work to fight against the conditions and to support all people for survival and release. So it's been amazing to also have Survived and Punished to help pick up that work and do so much and take it to the next level. So that was my connection in, and then if you all want to sit or stand, either way. People are warming up to the big crowd. It's intimidating, so.
My connection to CCWP when I first really knew about CCWP is when they came in to advocate for me because I was beat, tortured, humiliated, because of me being GNC, and sexually harassed. CCWP came in and met with me, and they've been a part of my life, and I've been a part of CCWP ever since. That was 3 years ago, so that's my connection.
How I got involved, me and Colby had a mutual friend, and I was at her event doing a poem performing, and she happened to introduce me to Colby, and at that time they were organizing around the suicide crisis and CIW, and at that time a friend of mine that I knew very well prior to my release was a suicide victim, accordingly to what they were saying. So she asked me to come out and perform at her visual that was going to be held in front of the prison. And at first it was just me, doing a poem for a friend that I knew. I fully wasn't aware of the work that they were doing. I was actively involved in nonprofit work already. But Colby was very persistent, and she invited me out to their annual retreat up in Oakland. And I've never been outside of LA, and at the annual retreat, it was just like amazing to me. I never heard of them. They were like a small nonprofit, but doing amazing work, and I was just like really fascinated, and I dropped every other nonprofit.
Drop it like it's hot.
Hi, I'm Ani. I had moved to the Bay Area to go back to school, and at the time was in a graduate program that was, it seemed like the framework that people kept trying to put on things was very much a human rights framework, and I found myself increasingly drawn to struggles for freedom that people were engaged in, anti-colonial struggles, autonomous struggles, and had been doing work in Indian-occupied Kashmir, and wanted to kind of situate some of the work locally as well, and had always interested in the issues that are facing women and trans folks, and the ways that women and trans folks are resisting specifically. So found California Coalition for Women Prisoners. It's one of the only organizations I found in the Bay Area that's doing a lot of sustained work across walls, so directly working with incarcerated folks. And also which has, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the workshop, but also which has politics, which matches my politics, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, comes from a background of folks who organized in San Francisco, Women Against Rape. So very much a politics where not organized around some victims are innocent, some aren't, those kinds of things. So that was really important to me in starting to engage work around what folks are fighting against. And I think increasingly, to me, it also becomes really critical to look at, like Kashmir, like Palestine, look at areas like women's prisons, men's prisons, where folks are organizing in conditions of just obscene levels of containment, control, dehumanization, isolation, and what can we learn from those resistances by working collectively with folks inside. So I've been, like Colby, not quite as long, but for 10 years now, I've been working with CCWP, working with folks inside that just, I think, the bonds that we're able to kind of develop to continue to fight on the outside and across walls when our folks come out, to be in places like this and to learn from each other. And just, one last thing is, I think there's so much right now in the sort of current phase of patriarchal capital that we're in. There's so much about it that is really trying to get us not to care for each other. And this came up on the other panel with Cyan, I think that's how you say it, but this idea of how do we care for our communities, like how do we care collectively, which is also the kind of one of our mantras in CCWP is caring collectively, and just how do we refuse everything that the state, that capital, a number of other technologies and forces are trying to do to us, so that we actually stop caring for each other and instead just override that completely and roll with each other.
Okay, who can tell me how to get to Chrome? Wait, am I in there? Remember the video links? Yeah, I don't see them on there. While Andrea comes to our rescue, thank you, Andrea Ritchie.
Yeah, wait till I find it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Those of us on the panel, some of us were talking about how we're going to see if we get through this without crying, because we all have a lot of deep emotional and some of us very traumatic experiences related to the work. And I know that probably everybody in the room can relate to that in all sorts of ways. So just going to say that out loud. Some of us are not scared to cry, so we hope you're not. I'm going to show a short clip that introduces you to the founder of CCWP, and then Romarilyn's going to talk a little bit more about her, and then we're going to both talk a little bit more about CCWP, and then we'll move to the other workshop part.
This is a story of the fight for dignity. It is a story of women in prison. It is a story of battered women, poor and working class women, and women of color who had the courage to say no to a system of injustice and abuse, and the strength to say yes to life.
We as inmates did not want a dime. All we were asking for was proper medical care for each woman.
Wherever she was going to fight. If there was any injustice, she's going to speak up.
I never thought that she could touch so many people's lives.
So that's Sharice Shoemate. Romarilyn will come up and tell you a little bit more about her. There's a whole video that gives an introduction to her and CCWP's founding. It's called Fighting for Our Lives. You can find it online for free. And it's an amazing low-budget history. My brother did the music, so that's cool. And also, part of what you can see in there, which is amazing, but we don't have time to show today, is actual footage from hearings inside, where people in the women's prison spoke about the severe medical neglect, and legislators came and they filmed it and they did these hearings. We've been trying for years to get hearings on a million other issues since then. It was some kind of miracle that they were able to organize that. But it's rare and powerful and devastating footage to watch. And the video in general will tell you more about Sharice's story. She was also a survivor of domestic violence who was criminalized for her survival. So I'll bring Romarilyn up to say a little bit more about her, and then we'll show one more short clip.
Thanks, Colby, for giving me a second chance. Believe in second chances. Okay, I'll start with how I came to CCWP. As an incarcerated survivor myself, I did not kill my abuser. My trauma led to someone else being killed. But I met Sharice in the reception center of CIW. She was one of the first people I met when I came in. And she was an organizer in the reception center. And if you know anything about prisons, it's really hard to organize in a reception center, but she could. She had active roles. She was delivering library books to folks, passing kites. I mean, if anyone could get anything to anyone, she did that, because she was very connected to the women at the prison, and she just pulled us all in around support of one another. So we talk about community building inside, having a relationship. I think about Sharice Shoemate. We called her Happy because she was always smiling. She was from Chicago, had a kid. We had similar stories. So we connected right away. And she was one of my first roommates on the yard. And we used to talk a lot about our lives and where we come from and the different types of violence that we had experienced. And she had sickle cell, and it was very painful. She suffered a lot, and it was very hard for her to get medical care at CIW. And one of the the reasons why she fought so hard, you know, to make sure that everyone had access to medical care was because she had suffered inside, and she had watched so many other people suffer inside with cancer, with other chronic illnesses and debilitating diseases. And she really felt like, you know, if we're going to be sentenced to life in prison, then the state should be responsible for our care and our well-being, as they say that they are. But they weren't providing anything for women in prison, and we were kind of left to take care of ourselves. And so I come to CCWP with that when it was created in 1995, with that history of knowing Sharice and how important it was for her to build something for women to support one another. And her energy was just fantastic. Every time I see her face on screen and how she organized those hearings and got people on the outside, people like you, connected to CIW and CCWP and CCWF behind, you know, the needs of women inside was really phenomenal back in the day, because there wasn't a lot of attention given to women in prison. There still isn't, and that's sad. But she managed to do that in a way that no other has, and that's how I remember Sharice, and that's how I come to CCWP, just in the spirit that Happy, you know, was all about surviving, you know, and if it wasn't for her and some of the other amazing women who shared their story early on with legislators, none of us who had suffered from abuse and survived it would be out here telling our stories. And I definitely wouldn't have the courage to be standing up here talking about my experience with incarceration if it hadn't been for the leadership, the guidance, and inspiration that I got from Sharice.
We're going to show one more short clip.
But nevertheless, you have pursued this lawsuit.
I pursued it because of the fact that whether I ever get a parole date or not, I would like to know myself, as well as any woman in this prison or any prison in the state of California, will receive proper medical care.
But Sharice realized that to change prison conditions, it would take not only legal work, but also pressure from the public. She and other women inside prison formed a group with people outside prison called California Coalition for Women Prisoners to increase support for the lawsuit to improve medical care.
Her organizing efforts forced people to stand up for themselves, forced people to stand up to the medical department when they told them that nothing was wrong with them, forced people to be persistent about their care.
She was good at getting letters, she was good at writing and asking for support and trying to form different groups to help out.
Women prisoners under attack! What do we do? Act up, fight back! Healthcare is a right! Healthcare is a right!
I believe it's important to have outside contacts and activists, and because there are doors that can be accessed by the people in the community that we will never be able to get to.
Our demands are compassionate release now for dying women prisoners.
Yes, that's right.
There's nobody here to take demands at this time. What I need to advise you is that you're trespassing on state grounds.
Well, part of your job is to take demands from the public. This is a public facility.
So this is just to, get you excited about watching that video. And this is the time when I cry my eyes out. So Sharice, she never made it out of prison alive, and that's the case for several of the other women that you just saw. And then there are others that you just saw who are still organizing with us with CCWP, like Mary Shields and other people out on the streets. And we've done a lot of protests since to some results. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But now I just need your help figuring out how to make this big. Full screen? So we're going to give just a little more background about CCWP. The reason we're doing this is because Survived and Punished team kind of across the country thought it might be useful to share a little bit more about CCWP's history, especially with people from across the country, given that we have this long history that we also, we are not great at documenting it or making it very public because we're really, really busy doing the work. I think a lot of you can probably relate to that. And we have very little staff, right? So but I think that what we've done, starting from the inside out, is something that we're learning that people are interested in it as a type of model. And so that's part of why we were asked to give a little more info today. So we also recognize as we're doing it that there are a lot of people doing work across the country, and we want to just help connect with everybody, build more coalition, and go from there. So this is a list of some of the principles that we work by. One is prioritize the leadership of currently and formerly incarcerated people with a focus on people in women's prisons. Build solidarity between people inside and outside jails and prisons, including with loved ones of incarcerated people. Challenge the systemic violence of all forms of incarceration, rooted in white supremacy and patriarchy. Cool. You can see it, but I can't. And then supporting incarcerated people's survival and release from prison guides our advocacy and organizing. And I would add, this is not inclusive of everything, right? So the other thing that we do, I think, well, is work in coalition. And we're going to talk about that more later in the workshop part. But that's where we also attend to the fact that we can't meet everybody's needs, right? So if we had more capacity, we would be doing more for people in the men's prisons, for trans women in the men's prisons, and for people in detention. And if some of our members, are moved around, then we do the work to follow them. But we work closely with the Transgender, Gender Variant, Intersex Justice Project, the amazing Janetta. And then through our work with Survive and Punish California, we support the work to get people free from deportation and ICE detention as well. So now we are going to go to strategies.
Yes, strategies. So thank you, Colby. So some of our strategies include prison visiting. Prison visiting is a huge component of what we do. It helps to build membership within the prison. It helps to provide training for incarcerated survivors. It helps us to keep them informed and keep that face-to-face, really critical connection and relationship. Visiting is so important. Sometimes you can't get that really honest conversation through a phone because phones are being monitored, letters are being monitored. So our visiting team really does a lot of important work going in CIW and CCWF with the prison visiting team. The letter writing campaign, unbelievable. Just being able to get that letter back. I think Kelly Savage was talking about how important it was when she got that mail to have that type of support from folks on the outside during her campaign, and how she took time to write everyone back. It's really important when we're inside to have that connection with the outside. You have no idea what a postcard or a letter or just a slip of paper just saying, just hang in there. We're out here marching for you, speaking for you, taking care of you. And then the newsletter, The Fire Inside. Beautiful. I mean, when we would get that on a quarterly basis inside, the letters of support that were in there, the advocacy that was going on the outside, the messages that we can share between prison to prison, it was just a way to communicate. So the work of just visiting and having someone to write that letter and then having the information from the outside coming in is so important. Because when you're in the prison, you feel isolated. You feel like you're not connected to the real world. Everything is so censored, and you just don't have access. So these are really some of the important tools that we use and some of the very important strategies to help us build coalition across California and the country.
So for our organizing campaigns, there's been a lot of organizing campaigns and advocacy work over all of the years since 1995. We just put up a couple examples of them. And I know Taylor already mentioned the suicide crisis at CIW. So CIW Women's Prison had the highest suicide rate of any prison in the country, 8 times the national rate for people in women's prisons. Mostly between 2013 and 2017-18. And so we worked with family members who lost loved ones to fight against that. to demand investigation, to basically demand attention and an end to the crisis. And if we had more time, I would have Taylor talk more about that, but when you can always chime in after. And then Me Too Behind Bars, which Rojas mentioned. Do you want to say a couple words about what that is? Oh, yeah.
Sure. So Me Too, do we need it? Yes. Just quickly, and then Rojas, you can jump into Me Too Behind Bars. Is a campaign that we've been working on collaboratively with folks inside. When we found out about a specific incident of guards attacking a group of what we like to say transgender, non-conforming, and defiantly queer folks inside. In other words, folks that were not playing the games that the guards wanted to play, and were viciously attacked for that. And maybe Rojas, you can talk a little. Rojas is one of the plaintiffs in a lawsuit that we were able to organize together with a legal team outside. And I think one of the things, we can talk more about it in the coalition building too, but one of the things that these folks did inside was they were able to, one of the reasons they were attacked was documenting the abuses that they were facing at the hands of guards. They were able to kind of circulate out that they had been attacked, and also then immediately activate kind of an entire network that they have inside of other people who were also being attacked for gender-related reasonings, or in gender-related ways by the guards. And so Me Too Behind Bars has kind of become this way to shed light into some of the abuses that people are facing inside. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I also feel that it's a way of like being out here and still speaking on it and letting everyone know that we're out here speaking for them, because they're in there speaking to us, CCWP, letting us know what's going on, and that makes them more powerful. Like and you can't even imagine like how to have your friends call and be excited, even if it's for a couple of minutes that they're talking to you, and it's because you're out here saying like, hey, we're launching the Me Too Behind Bars campaign, you know, and they're just like, damn, like, do it, and just the excitement. And if your phone call's almost over, and like, you know, you get sad, of course, but just to hear for them few minutes, you know, excited, and so that's what Me Too Behind Bars is like doing for all of us, I guess. That's what I wanted to say about it.
Thank you so much. And the last campaign we'll mention that I think some people know about is a campaign to drop life without parole sentencing. So in short, drop LWOP. And we work with many people serving life without parole in the women's prisons, and work with lots of other groups working with people, including trans women in the men's prison serving life without. We want to end life without parole sentencing, and obviously also the death penalty still exists in California and other extreme sentencing. We're working a long coalition with people about that. If you're not plugged in to support the campaign, we would love it if you and your organization nationally, we're part of the movement to end life sentencing and life without parole sentencing and the death penalty. And Kelly Savage, who you saw earlier, is one of the main reasons why we have this campaign, because she and many other people serving life without have been organizing strong in the women's prisons in California and demanding attention to a population of people sentenced to, and Nia Norn, of course, also on the panel. They've been doing such amazing organizing around life without parole on the inside and then coming out. So stay tuned for more about that.
So as you know, CCWP was formed around grassroots advocacy and organizing in the prison. So a lot of that work still continues, and now we've actually built some organizing and policy teams to do legislative work. These are just a few of the campaigns that we worked on recently. Thank you, Colby. So raising the poverty threshold. As some of you may know, when you're incarcerated, you have a trust account where folks can send money so that you can buy food or materials or whatever you need inside. Well, in California, up until January 1 of 2019, the poverty threshold was $1. So if you had $1 or more on your account, then the state did not have to provide any hygiene items for you, writing materials, notary services, anything like that. You were not exempt from medical copay, so you had to take care of yourself. So one of one of our campaigns last year was to raise that $1 to $25, and we were successful in getting that poverty threshold raised from $1 to $25 a month. So now anyone that has $25 or less has access to hygiene items and writing materials and notary services, which this one bill provided those services and resources to over 80,000 incarcerated people. So that was really an incredible thing. Out of that bill, we were also addressing medical co-pays, which of course most people have healthcare. If you have healthcare, you have a medical copay. You have a copay in California if you're in jail or prison. So we are fighting to eliminate medical copays, which was part of that indigent bill last year that was carved out because of the revenue that it brings to the state of California. It's almost $500,000 that the state of California is able to collect from incarcerated folks inside by that copay. So we're working to eliminate that through legislation, but we're also able to get the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to author a regulation on March 1st, today, huh? So that came out maybe a week ago. They announced that as of March 1st today, that medical co-pays will be eliminated throughout the California prison system. So yeah, thank you for that. And then suicide prevention and reporting was out of an audit that was conducted by and ordered by Senator Connie Leyva. And so we're able to now have annual reporting about suicide attempts that we weren't able to have before this bill. And then long-term sentencing, we're still working on some sentencing enhancements, eliminating sentencing enhancements, which are very costly and doesn't reduce crime in our communities. It doesn't do anything but cause more harm to families and communities. And so we supported the felony murder rule, which we'll talk more about maybe later because it's around time to stop talking.
And as I pass this mic, does this one work yet? I will just say too that part of our strategy, our approach is, as you've heard, survival and release. So if people can't survive their time in order to get released, then we won't have the people. So that's why it's so important for us to change the conditions, in ways like the non-reformist reforms that people have heard about to try to support people to survive their time and get out. And then these three amazing people are going to get up and then lead us. Oh, you don't need this because you're going to lead us in a little workshop style, and then we're going to carve out some time at the end. Yeah.
This just is a map of the prisons in Maine. So I didn't mean. Where I'm from, in California, and just quickly, one of the things we like to sort of think through is imagining how you can find out where these prisons are located, how far they are from organizing areas that you may already be in. For example, as you can see in California, so many of them, the women's prisons, are not close to urban areas. So we go out to visit with folks in Chowchilla, which is a 3-hour drive from the city, and so just kind of trying to find out where these facilities are, what the history is of these facilities, and Romarilyn was giving us a history of CIW at the beginning, but not just sort of what's the history of the institution? Has it always been gendered in a particular way? Did it shift over? When did it shift over? When was it built? What was it designed for? All those institutional history, but also what is the history of struggle that's coming out of that institution? So have there been struggles against solitary confinement there? Have there been struggles against environmental issues there? So what is the history of both the institution and what's the history of struggle coming out of it? What's showing up in the media about particular, and jump in and grab the screen whenever. I know we have sections, but you can also grab them. What's showing up in the media around particular institutions is, for instance, is it coming up that there's no heat in an institution? You can learn something about what's happening there and who's organizing around what's showing up in the media. That was also true with the suicide crisis that has come up several times, where suddenly the organizing that's going on inside, the contacts that are being made from inside with loved ones outside is then driving the media process where people are responding?
Even if like where the prison is located, like I'm gonna say Chowchilla because that's where I was at. You know what I mean? We were watching the news and the water was a problem. There was too much arsenic in the water, and seeing things like that, like hey, the community members, like people were worried about them, but nobody's worried about us, and we gotta drink that water.
That's
like
right.
I can't buy no bottled water. You know what I mean? We're drinking that, so. Like, things like that, you know, just look into that, like, just think about, like, what prison, maybe, what's the prisoner, what are they going through, like, down, because we don't get bottled water like that, and it ain't free, and like Romarilyn said, things get expensive, co-pays, all that, and when your family puts money on your books, they take more than half of it, so it gets hard, you know, those are our problems, so try to kind of, like, think of those kind of things, you know?
We also have up there researching existing organizations. Direct service would be something more like in California we have legal services for prisoners with children, different legal groups that are always going in. So any organizations that are doing direct services are good to contact with, mostly because they're already going in.
Or that have resources, like, you know, you can hook up people with jobs, like, you know, maybe go to those orgs and find different resources. That's that too. Because we get out. We're in prison and it's hard, and then we get out and it's hard. So, you know what I mean? It's like,
hard.
You know, I personally didn't get any education. I was punished a lot on top of being punished, on top of being punished. You know, I resisted a lot, and I'm not that model. I wasn't that model inmate. I always resisted. So, yeah, I was punished a lot. So. Yeah, so can you imagine not getting education at all? Like, I tried, I was in college courses, but they took me, I was taken to the hole, you lose those privileges. And I mean, getting out, and I even am like embarrassed to talk to all of you. I'm doing it right now, but I'm like, oh, they're smarter than me. You know, you feel like I don't meet up to like what I'm supposed to. It makes me so nervous. Thank you. Yeah.
Just to like re-echo that phrase quickly, like, you know, the entire time I was in there, I was always resisting. It was like one of those moments where we try not to cry.
Yeah, exactly.
But also like so much to learn from that moment, just in terms of there's always resistance going on inside that we all know. And so how can we approach working across walls by recognizing that, and like even if we don't see it, knowing it's there and having to look for it. And that's also true for the organizations outside, because there's always people outside that love the people inside and that are organizing on the inside.
That's right.
Oh, here we are. Organizing inside. Well, you guys maybe could say a couple things about folks organizing inside. What some of the things that have been going on like in
That's right, Janetta. That's right.
Well, when I was in there and I started organizing inside, I want everybody to know how hard it is to organize on the inside. You know, off top, you're looking at each other and you know you're going to do this and you know you're going to get retaliated on. And retaliation looks like the ass whooping. You know, it looks like you're a bitch, a hoe. Even if they're cuffing you up, like me, they're going to cuff me up, they pull your arms up. You know, I don't know if anybody ever, like, got their arms twisted back, but you're going to bend over and they're going to walk you bent over, you know, and tell you degrading things. But that's like, it's coming. So you look at each other when you decide to organize and you're like, hey, like, we know what we're doing, you know, like our eyes are watering, like, are you ready for this, you know? You even try to talk each other out of it. You even try to say, like, look, I got this, you don't, you know, they're like, no, I'll do it this time, and that's what it looks like for us in there. So once we did that, it is hard to organize in there. I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting kind of emotional. But that's why, because organizing in there means you're going to face a lot of retaliation. And our friends that can't organize with us because they're lifers and they need to go home is also traumatizing for them. You know, it might, like, them not being able to speak because, like, for a lifer, that means you're going to go home or you're not. So you have to not, like, stand with your friend it's like, damn, like, this isn't like my life that's gonna get taken away, it's theirs. So they separate us. They try to, there's these things that separate us because, you know, this person can't get a 115 or, you know, you don't want to get uprooted and moved, but like it's super hard to organize in there. But we do it. You have to be real secretive about it, like to keep your paperwork. I mean, like I said, I'm not educated. A lot of us were not, and that's also hard. Like we sat in a circle reading the dictionary, like, hey, that means this, and this is how we do that, and so but we started organizing against all the abuse, like and sticking together and helping write grievances. And I mean, like I said, I resisted. I jumped on the roof and all that, so, which is not, yeah, the whole, but organizing is super hard in there. But we do it, and it's easier when we got help out here.
Thank you.
So I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't even know organizing was going on the inside of prison. And I realized what I seen, like amongst the younger generation, it was like always a lack of unity. Like I'm naturally like, I'm a fight against injustice. So like basically I wasn't organizing, but I was putting myself in these positions to where I was defending people and I was getting in trouble for it. So if I would have known what was organized going on in there, like I would have had a reason to act the ass, so I would have did it, like, you know. But yeah, I was doing it for no reason, like, you know, like for no, and nobody knew me. They just see me shutting down the yard every second, you know. But there was a lot of things because of how I believe and how I'm morally set up. Like I didn't allow bullying because I used to get bullied, and because of my size, I'm naturally bullied. Like I always shut the yard down. Like I was like legendary for that, like shutting the yard down. Like but it was always for the right reasons. Like, you know, you wasn't gonna treat me anyway. You wasn't gonna treat this defenseless person anyway. I got my shoulder thrown in a socket. I had 3 false charges put on me, which all was like, you know, like they didn't hold up, but still I had to give that time an asset, and it was unfair to me. These are the type of treatments I get normally because of my size, and because I'm not scared to go against, you know, fight for what's right. So I did experience a lot of, you know, unjust going on in the prison, and it wasn't, I got Prop 47 though, so I was a recipient of Prop 47. I got released 2 years before I was supposed to get released, and that was like a blessing because it wasn't until I got my release date I realized there was no way in heaven I was going to be able to do 2 more years in prison. I just didn't see it. Like suicide attempts, I was that person. It was becoming so overwhelming, and I've been doing time since I was 13 years old, and I feel like I never found nothing that broke me. And prison brought me to my knees. Like it scared me to death, and I have to be honest about it. I know if I go back, I would not return home because it just got that overwhelming for me. So towards the end of my sentence, they had a poetry contest, and I feel like that's when everybody got to see who I was because I love poetry. And people were just like, even staff, like, I didn't know you were capable of this. I thought you were just angry. You were coming back, you know. But I thought it was a beautiful time for me to, like, show people that I'm not this angry person, a person that y'all portray me to be, a troublemaker or none of this. I'm a real person that just, you know, refused to be treated anyway. So I was glad to get that side of me out. And ever since I've been home, just organizing because nobody should never be scared to go to a place or fearful they'll lose their life if they go back to a place. So that's why I stand here.
That's right, Taylor.
And I think one of the things at CCWP that we're very aware of is the tremendous knowledge and expertise that's always coming from inside, and that's at the center of all the organizing that we're doing, which is obviously really clear right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk about this. Connecting with family and friends. Like I said, my own experience, CCWP connected with my family, and actually even, I mean, they would fly my family to come see me. Like my family stayed at Sarah Kushner's house. She's not here, but another CCWP member. But they allowed my family to use their car. That's how involved like CCWP. That's how much they supported me. Like that's how tight we are. Seriously, that's like my family, I couldn't even tell my family what happened. Okay, guys, check this out. I'm from Compton. I'm a little, you know, like, I didn't cry as much before. You humanize, you know, like, you don't even know what all, like, abuse is, you know, unless it's really bad, but you don't really know, like, the abuse is like, okay, like, I only got, like, a black eye, you know what I mean, but, like, nothing's broke, but, you know, it's, damn. Now that I really am starting to learn, I'm like, damn, I cry all the time, you know what I mean, so I wasn't even able to tell my family what happened. When these strangers came in, damn, they gained my trust because, first of all, they were my family. They had no reason to come in there and see me, you know. But because they cared, they were just like, no, we're here just for you to help change this. So that's that bond, you know, that you have to create with families, like, so they trust you, and you could. That's how you're able to support each other. You know, like, it's the trust that you build with each other, with families, friends, that we built.
I'm sorry. Choose a time-limited project as a pilot. Example, a book drive, a welcome home committee. Make sure not to make big promises you're not ready to keep. Ask participants for one through two more pilot projects. Simple, just things like, I mean, we did so many small projects, it's hard to name, but I do want to pinpoint one thing CCWP does do, and a lot of places don't do this, we do. Once our members come home, we make sure whatever speaking engagement or whatever they do, they're not doing it for free. So wherever place they show up, we offer a stipend and make sure they get paid.
Stipend. Can I ask an example? Ask for what example?
Do you want to do it?
We wanted to solicit some other examples. If folks also have other examples of like time-limited projects that you can do if you're maybe thinking about what your commitment might be to working with folks inside, or if you want to try out what it looks like if other folks done other projects like that we could learn from, that folks could share. Yeah. Thank you.
We've done, the folks in Chicago back here, we've done baby showers. We also, for people who were maybe out on bond or just coming home, we've also done art projects. So we made a quilt with some other folks who aren't here for a woman who was incarcerated in Michigan, who was pregnant and who gave birth in jail.
Anyone else?
You could try to go ahead.
I think, yeah, Janetta.
There you go.
Hello? Okay. For the Chicago people, I did baby showers for 4 years. Just at a random food pantry came up with the idea, look to your baseball team to supply you with needs. The wives of the baseball teams generally do stuff like this. And they supplied us, I think it's 6 years in now, of once a month baby showers or quarterly baby showers for up to 20 women. So look to your wives for the baseball team. And football.
Okay, we're going to take one more really quickly because time.
I wanted to say to you, Rojas, I've heard you speak and I love to hear you speak. You're very passionate and everything you say is real. And I want you to never, ever, ever to say that you're not educated because you've been inside that system and you learn how to navigate that system. That's right. You met with your community. You met with your community and you found out the issues. You have very much insight on this side to help people on the outside. Please don't ever say that you're not educated because you're smart as fuck. And, that's right. Your voice is very important. Your voice is very important. Your voice, our voices are very important. So please don't say that. Don't ever say that again.
Okay, we're going to move on really quickly. So it says reach out to people in groups with experience to inform form organizing advocacy, raise funds to pay people with experience with incarceration and reentry to do trainings when possible, reach out to national councils and other networks for connections to people, groups with experience. That's something in CCWP, we believe in allies, and other nonprofits have bigger platforms than we do, and just in the work, like we all feed off of each other, so it's no one, better than the other. We're all doing the same work, so we feed, we use other people's platforms, they join onto our platforms. That's how it's, not all of us have the answers, so we lean on each other. Do anybody else have any knowledge about groups to reach out to, or if you want, we know everybody don't know resources. If y'all may be willing afterwards to share resource lists with each other so people could be more informed, that'd be, appreciated. You right there?
Sure. Is that working? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Hi. One example I wanted to offer to relate to that is working with local legal aid organizations. That's been really crucial for Moms United Against Violence and Incarceration because we're a bunch of ne'er-do-well organizers and they don't want to let us in to do anything. But being able to work with legal aid organizations sometimes helps give you access. So a couple years ago we started a program called Reunification Ride where we bring kids from Chicago every month to visit their moms who are incarcerated. And we started it as a one-up to see if we could get away with it as a Mother's Day month thing. And we've been doing it every month for the last 2 years. So if anybody wants to hear more about that, talk more about that, please come talk to me about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anybody else? You right there. You.
In Philadelphia, I was able to utilize some of the clubs in our area. I actually asked them, with a couple other comrades of mine, we was able to get jackets from the nightclubs that people actually need.
That's amazing. That's
smart.
That people believe, yeah.
Smart. That is.
Yeah.
People leave behind nice stuff.
That is so dope. I hope everybody knows that. You want the back over there?
I can do the regional one. Sure. Sure. Yeah.
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 Just say that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to folks in your region, especially if you can get in touch with some folks, if you know folks who are just recently released or who are stuck in jail just because they can't get bailed out or bonded out. That's another idea. If you're trying to build relationships with folks on the outside and also making meaningful relationships with folks on the inside, that's a great way to start, especially if you really don't know anything. Collect some money and just bail niggas out of jail.
There you girl,
Amen.
that part.
So we're gonna basically it goes on to move into the next slide. Connect with legal groups to build coalition. As for example about why coalition building is important, how to manage challenges of coalition building. Big nonprofits, celebrities, legislators taking credit for grassroots work. Y'all know me. Well, not yet, but one thing I learned to be grateful for people that's making things happen. I can't be mad if the results are coming through, but I'm tired of people bearing the fruits of my labor, and that's just realistic because I'm just as talented as Kim K. Going with Donald Trump. Thank you, Kim K. But they've been organizers on the ground doing this from the beginning. Was ignored for years. So that's just reality. That's reality. So we're gonna check count 50 and all them people with the money. We just gotta be realistic, and we gotta encourage them to start lifting up the organizers that's already here, that been doing this 15 years, 10 years, and has, numerous successes, stop. I mean, I understand they're probably capitalizing off of, Kim K. We're going to use them for what they're good for, but don't forget about us. My name should be right next to Kim K's, and that's reality.
And it will be. Last one, Taylor.
Okay, so set group agreements to the last slide. Set group agreements and some kind of accountability practices early on. And we all know, anywhere people is gathered, differences, opinions, and all that conflict occurs, But as long as we stay focused on the cause and, what our goals are, we can overcome everything. And if you're willing to take accountability, we're going to leave that word alone for the day. ACC. So we're willing to take ACC.
I love it.
I think, and that's one thing about CCWP, such a small group, very poor, but if y'all
Very
just
poor,
see,
very poor.
it says something when you can see there's no money there and the work that we're doing and how effective we are in the work that we're doing. Because I can name some nonprofits with $1 million budget that's not doing what we're doing, period.
Drop the mic on that one, Taylor. Drop the mic.
Where the real change is happening, that's reality, So, my segment is over.
I wanted to drop a mic and I didn't even have one. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Rojas. Thank you, Ani.
We're just going to close out. We intended to have some time for breakouts for regions. We don't have that time, but I hope that it was still really helpful to hear from all these amazing organizers, thinkers, people with a lot of strategy, and so much love. And that was the other thing we didn't put under principles, but the thing about CCWP that drew me in and has kept me in for so long is how much love there is in this community across the walls, and support and respect. So we're going to do, instead of that, for closeout, what time is it exactly?
12:58.
We have 2 minutes, yes, okay, in 1 minute. We're gonna just have people raise their hands from different kind of regions around the country. It's exciting to just kind of see who's in the room, and then also we'll just pause at each of those hand raisings so you can look around. If you're not already connected with people in your region, or if you are, you can see that you're here in the same room and get more connected. And we will find other ways to make sure those connections happen later in the afternoon. So who's from this area? New York, the Northeast? Wow.
New York in the house.
New York in the house. Okay, great. And who's from New York, Survived and Punished, so that people can connect with these folks if you're not already? Okay, awesome. What about the Southeast? On this side here, amazing.
We got Dawn.
Anyone else over here? Yeah. Raise your hand super high, make some noise.
All right.
Okay. If you're not already connected. And then what about the South? I'm from Canada, so if I get this wrong, I'm sorry. People talk about the South. I know people from the South. Okay, from the South? Okay, yes? In the middle here? Okay. Welcome.
West Coast. West Coast.
West Coast.
West
Coast. Okay, amazing. Any from the Pacific Northwest? I know that's a place. Okay. I heard that the Midwest means like the North Central.
Midwest.
Okay, Midwest. I'm glad your mics aren't on. I feel some pushback. Chicago, you're like your own place. Okay. What about in the center? What is that?
Midwest.
The Midwest. See what I mean? Yeah. What did we miss? Anyone from Canada? Hey! Of course, Andrea. Any other regions we missed? South America. That's right. America's not the only country. Okay. And then.
How dare you?
Southwest. Somebody said.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Is that Atlanta?
Mid-Atlantic.
Mid-Atlantic. Thank you, Cayenne. Okay. And then Romarilyn's going to close us out. Thank you all so much.
So what we would like to do to close out is just to have everyone stand and join us in this chant. If you could do that with us, please. Because it is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and care for each other.
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 We have nothing to lose but our change.